Good morning, everybody. This is John Sfiocla for GAI Insights, here with the Gen AI news briefing for essential, important, and optional news in the AI world. Starting on this Monday, we have a pretty big crew today. Luna's come back from vacation. Adam is staying awake down in Australia, so we should have a good time. Dave's going to take us through it. Just want to give you a quick update. We had a fantastic couple days at MIT last week, and it was imagination in action. The one thing I would say, it is amazing how much activity there continues to be in both core AI and generative AI in every dimension imaginable: applications, capabilities, performance of the underlying technology, interest by corporates. So anyway, it's great to be here with you to share the current news. And David, take us away.
All right. Thank you, John. Yes, that I'm still reflecting on so many things that I learned at the conference, and I'm very much looking forward to the videos coming out so I can see everything that I missed too. There was such a flurry of sessions. It was impossible to get to everything. But today here, we'll focus on our news that came in over the weekend. We've got 5 stories today. We'll talk about some connective tissue for companies to provide access to large language models for their organization, but be able to be selective about what they are. We'll talk about some advances in neuromorphic computing from Intel, cool new tool from Microsoft, the one we won't see just yet, given its power, and some use cases from United Airlines, and some info about how pharma adoption is going. Pharma adoption of generative AI is going in only select areas. So we'll start with the first article here. Ankaj, kick us off.
Ankaj has been removed from the stage, or he left. If you could add him back in, thank you.
There he is.
Okay. Thanks, Adam. Thanks, David. So the first one that we have for today is from Langdoc. So Langdoc has raised 3 million from General Catalyst, and they are trying to help companies avoid vendor lock-in with LLMs.
All right, let's get us kicked off. John, what do you think?
Yeah, I read this thing as important. This is a story of, I think of it as kind of a middleware layer between the end user and the large language models to avoid vendor lock-in. And we've mentioned the importance of that a number of times. I think it's absolutely essential for organizations not to get locked into one vertical stack, because if you take your prompts from one model to another, you get very, very different results. It is early days, there's a raising capital thing, but the thing that put me over the hump from optional to important was the fact that not only they raised the $3 million from decent, very credible VC, but they've also fully deployed Merck. I don't know if it's a, a prototype customer, pilot customer, whatever, but I thought it was very interesting because, Merck, obviously highly regulated, respected, and they've rolled out to according to this, the entire Merck base. So super important concept, not the only provider in here, but a good one, or seems like a good one coming up, and at least a pointer to use.
Yeah, when I read this, I first expected the article to be about an interface that was allowing selection of models from developers' perspective, but it's actually for employees, so that they can choose different tools. So that was interesting. Anybody else have a counter argument or anything to add?
Yeah, as a money-raising thing, I thought it was optional, but as a trend and the need for this type of tools, we've talked about it before. I think it is important to highlight that this is coming, and this is becoming easier to use. Previously, it was only for developers, and now it's better. It's easier to use for other people than developers. Yeah, so I agree with John.
Adam, you look like you maybe had a point.
Well, I thought it was pretty optional, but it might be because I'm well aware of other offerings like this, so it didn't seem like much that was new. I wasn't that impressed. $3 million, frankly, in this arena is not a lot of money either to run with. And it was, I wouldn't say a late entry, but certainly not first to market that's making this sort of offering. I think they do make some good points. I could be convinced it's important to emphasize not getting locked into a single model. It's important to emphasize that you're going to want this flexibility to pick the right model for the right job, and that these middleware or middle layers are going to become more and more important. But I didn't see much out of why we would want to highlight this specific product. Like what's so special about them, I guess, was my thinking.
Sure. Adam, are the other ones deployed as well?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what extent they're live in enterprise, but it also says it's available to all 63,000 Merck employees. How many of them are actually using it? How many of them even know it's there, right? That just means that it's on their intranet.
Sure. No.
It was just a little unconvincing for me to flag, but I think especially with the commentary about considering this versus being locked into a specific vendor I could certainly sit comfortably with important news.
What I keyed, Adam, I agree with you as well. So because there's a need for it, there are several models, we've talked about them, that allow this not being locked in. The interesting thing, I think, what these guys are doing is doing all the security and passing data properly between the models if needed, and aligning all of that. This is a very difficult proposition, actually, and $3 million would not get them very far in that sense. So it's early days to really build that middle layer to be effective. So if in fact Merck is using it, to John's point, that's actually good. And it's so the reason I would go with important, it's because we're highlighting to everyone that exists and will be strengthened.
All right. Sounds like we can go with important as a concept, to be determined whether this particular company will end up being important in the space in the end. Okie doke. What do we have next?
Okay, next one is from Intel. So they have built world's largest neuromorphic system, and it will enable a more sustainable AI.
All right, Adam, you brought this to our attention, so I gave you the lead on it.
Yeah, thanks. It's super cool. It's super interesting. So they're taking the approach of designing AI chips, as I understand it, that function more like an actual human brain. So there are neurons and then there are connections between them, which means the efficiency you can get as you try and scale and parallel process is unprecedented with something like NVIDIA's Blackwell. But they're looking to really address different parts of the market. And this is very early days. This is an announcement. The one they built is going to Sandia National Labs. If that gives you any idea of sort of the scale that we're dealing with here. So this isn't something that any of our audience would be looking to bring to market anytime soon. But I can also see how Intel will be carving out a niche for themselves. These sorts of things are going to be more useful in AI environments where it needs to be continuously reinforcing its learning and continuing to learn, because the nature of this neuromorphic system allows it to be more flexible and adaptable. And just like a human brain, as you focus on a task more and more, you effectively make a bigger channel for it. So it's fascinating stuff, but I think it's optional news.
All right.
I agree. Mm-hmm.
I read it, and let me make a case for essential.
Oh boy, okay.
Yes, granted, it's research, it goes to the national lab, it's early days. However, the sustainability issue and the energy use of AI models is humongous, right? That's a huge issue, needs to be wrestled down. This is a breakthrough, 100 times less energy, 100 times, big deal. And yeah, and it introduces complexity, a different way of doing an LLM, right? And I feel that, and they will improve it, and it's Intel. They've been working at it. It's worthy of the national lab to use it, right? So I think it's worth for our audience to know that this is happening, this is coming. And so sustainability, if they are putting it as a huge issue internally, it will go away. It not that it will go away completely, but it will be lessened to a large degree.
All right. We've got two ends of the spectrum here. We need some other voices. What do you think, John?
Yeah, I think I agree that the trend is essential. That we're going down a path where we're trading energy for intelligence. Throughout the Industrial Revolution, we traded energy for form and productivity, and now we're trading energy for intelligence. And whoever comes up with the best way to make that trade, I think is going to be differentially advantaged. I think that there are other neuromorphic attempts out there to do this kind of stuff. And I agree that Sandia Labs are a great place to store it. This, as far as I know, this research started a number of years ago, at least 10 or more, where they were, because Moore's law is flattening out, you're going to brain-inspired computing architectures. And this one obviously has got things like synthetic synapses and so forth that collect energy or collect information and pulse on, and they're way more energy efficient. But I had it as optional. I can put it to important. I don't think it's essential yet because it's a long way. The translational research necessary to get it anywhere near an enterprise, I think, is a lot.
I can go with important, but I don't think it's optional. I think it should be flagged.
All right, let's flag it. I mean, we only have 5 articles today. We're not going to be asking a lot of our audience, even if we rate them all as important. So I'm going to go ahead and say, let's put it down on important. And
All
it's really super cool too. I forget what the stat is of the efficiency of the human brain. I think it runs on 10 watts versus, like a data center can be.
One thing I did see in this article that I think we will start hearing more about is they talk about the basically tops per watt. So it's like the trillions of 8-bit operations per watt of power. And I think we're going to be hearing that conversation more and more. I couldn't find anything around the NVIDIA chips in terms of the efficiency in that same metric. But I think, to your points, we're going to be hearing more and more the importance of the efficiency of these. And that measurement is going to become quite possibly a sort of a more common piece of terminology.
Yeah, it's going to be really weird because we're going to have a combination of crypto consuming all kinds of energy to create, virtual currency. And then we're going to have, the energy intelligence trade-off. And generally intelligence can decrease the cost of energy usage. But then if the intelligence to decrease the energy use costs a lot to create, my memory of it, David, is that the human brain, and don't hold me to this. This is because whatever, I might be using the wrong neurons, but it's about 10,000 times more energy efficient if you make the leap that what we're doing up here is logical processing. You know what I mean? Which is a big leap. But anyway, given that analogy, it's about 10,000 times more efficient. Last I checked.
All right, we'll fact check you later. Okie doke. Let's move on to the next one, Ankash.
Okay, so the next one is from Microsoft. So Microsoft has launched Vasa 1 VA. So it's an AI framework that can make human headshots talk and sing.
Yeah, this
really funny videos related to this one.
Yeah, let's watch the video where we're chatting. If you want to scroll down on this one, it's super cool. Luda, what do you think?
Yeah, I put it as optional. First of all, the release is just an announcement. It hasn't been released per se. There are things that Microsoft is saying they need to work out. And also there's a very serious danger that it could be used for fakes. So they're working on it. It's super cool. But also, as I'm thinking of serious applications, I think the applications are in like emotional sitters for the elderly type of that, and certainly for marketing and advertising. But industrial applications will have to come up, I think, after the technology is done.
Yeah, what do you think? Like training videos, in education internally could be used during this. You put up a script, you put up your CEO, and you can have him or her delivering a training video, obviously for media. influencers, we're hearing about the AI influencers already that are on social media. This lets you do it off of a picture as opposed to having to upload a few seconds of video. I mean, it's pretty impressive that this does it off of one photo, right, that you put up. But, of course, it's disappointing again. You can't use it, and we don't know when you will be able to, which makes it feel optional for sure. Any other thoughts on this? Nothing. Nobody was inspired.
Agreed. I think I almost want to make a rule, like whenever they tease us with some cool thing that we can't play with, we should just make it optional by default. Not fair.
I know. Such a tease. I would die to, upload a photo of myself up here and say some silly things.
Yeah,
all right.
I feel bad for the researchers. They delivered, and then corporate said, we're not launching that.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't get us into any more trouble, right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, we'll go optional on this one, although worth watching the video because it's just kind of fun. What do we have next?
Okay, the next one is from United Airlines. So the article lays out how United Airlines is using AI.
All right, Adam, thoughts?
Man, I feel like I'm a wet blanket today. I consider this.
I'll call you the voice of reason. How about the voice of reason and rigor?
It's a fairly long-winded article. A lot of it is about things other than the way they're using generative AI. They discuss a little bit about their Connection Saver, which was their first AI ML-based service, but that went live in 2019, right? So that was machine learning algorithms. It's not generative AI. They say that they now have an AI chatbot, and they're not scared of what happened to Air Canada in the lawsuit because, quote, humans make mistakes too. Just generally, I was underimpressed by this article, and it didn't really give me any insights or any new use cases, so I considered it pretty optional news.
Right. This is definitely in the category of articles that should have been fed to the robot and weren't. Because this is definitely worse than the worst robots in terms of the writing. It's terrible.
TechCrunch is real hit and miss, right? And sometimes it definitely looks like they are giving things to robots because it's like a press release with a couple of words tweaked. This one they actually did an interview though, so a human processed this to some degree, and it definitely fell flat.
I agree with you. You can get pablum from the robots, but at least the pablum's consistent, and this is inconsistent, badly written pablum. So I'm guessing a robot. But
yeah, anyway, I think they were trying to get eyeballs on it with the title when, as Adam said, like most of the article was talking about the cloud, and then it does talk about some older AI, but the generative AI applications that they were talking about were not very impressive. Like help the pilot write their announcement to the.
Yeah, I was fascinated by that. That's a huge differentiator in perceived customer service, and that's a place where they completely have fallen down. I've flown a lot lately, and man, they got to take those pilots back to school on that stuff because they're terrible. Anyway.
Totally right. I also was very unimpressed with the type of applications they were talking about. There's so much value that can be created with AI in the industry, and they're talking about like fringes. Yeah, certainly optional for me.
All right, we'll go to very optional, and we will go to our last piece.
Okay, so the last one talks about a survey where 2/3 of top 20 pharma companies have banned ChatGPT. So on one side, while pharma companies are using generative AI for drug discovery, these companies seem to be banning ChatGPT.
All right, I had to assign this one to Tanya because I thought she was here, but she's not.
I'm happy to. Can I posit a news cycle that goes along with the hype cycle?
Yeah.
This is the idiot article cycle. Okay, this is the idiot article in the idiot article cycle. So what happens is that, something comes out, then they find the most extreme position, or let's call it, I was going to say the Fox News cycle, find some crazy idiot and generalize it to everything else. But anyway, this is, look, let's just take a look. So they say, okay, 80+% of people think that AI is overhyped in pharma. However, fewer than 40% have access and are educated on it. So great. So somewhere in there, you have a bunch of people opining on something I have no idea about what it's about. And the general structure of this thing of saying, and somebody, they have a quote in there or a person saying, people think AI is going to do everything, but it's not. Oh, come on. Give me a break. Yeah. And, I can't live the rest of my life on Twinkies. I mean, give me a break. I mean, it's like, it drives me bananas. Optional. Super optional.
Right. And also, the usage that they're talking about is so super specific, right? They've banned ChatGPT specifically, but then later in the article, they talk about how like the top use case is one that's like super important, which is drug discovery, right? And that it is being used there. Yeah. So it's kind of like,
this is a hit-driven business where exploration of the search space, even if it only improves it 1%, if it's a large enough market, it's a massive implication for the shareholder. So it's anyway. Articles like this drive me nuts.
Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I think I agree with John. It's certainly optional because we reviewed a whole bunch of pharma companies that are putting the AI in the forefront and actually getting value out of it. It's not yet in the revenue, but it will be just in a little bit. So they will differentiate themselves major league, right? So, and we know that, we've seen it. So this article is in some sense misrepresentation. And I wonder whether it goes because they've asked people in the low ranks to participate in that survey. And so in their groups, wherever they are, maybe at the low, at the bottom of the tree, they were told not to use ChatGPT, but it doesn't mean that the company as a whole is not using ChatGPT. So I just think it's somewhat a misrepresentation.
Yeah, and to boot, it says that 50% of the employees that they interviewed are using it. They're just using it in the shadows. So yeah.
David, I got one thing I want to highlight that I think it is essential is to not give 2 cups of coffee to John and bad articles on a Monday morning. It really gets him fired up.
We like that. We like that.
I actually had I put it on the edge of optional important, and I'll make my case for what that's worth. It said that respondents said largely it was being banned because of concerns that sensitive internal data could be leaked, right? But I think it emphasizes the importance of having an acceptable AI use policy, right? This could be treated like any other web-based tool, right? You don't go to any third party and upload your sensitive data. And to wall this thing off and treat it any differently and be afraid of it is missing a massive opportunity to really bring your enterprise into the future here. So I think it's important to note what they're not doing right as sort of a counterpoint that could debatably make this important. But the article itself, yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's pretty abysmal.
Yeah, I like your point, Adam, and we can put that in the text of the newsletter, but I think we don't really want to actually send clicks to this article, so I'm going to mark it as optional. All right, so that comes, we've come to the end here. We've got 2 important articles, one about Langdoc, which is the interface letting companies choose the LLM access for their individual employees. We're marking the neuromorphic computing system as important as hey, this is coming, guys, as a solution to some of the energy issues with LLMs. And then we've got 3 optionals, the one we just discussed, and Microsoft's T's and United Airlines not being very impressive or innovative with how they're using the newer AI tools. I know tonight is our learning lab. Paul, what's our feature for this evening?
Yep. Yeah, we're going to do. We're going to review some of the findings we had from the MIT event. So, should be interesting. A potpourri of brilliance, I'm sure, as we get to talk about the different things that we saw and participated in.
All right, very well. As always, sign up for our newsletter if you want to get a synopsis of this. And otherwise, we will see you again tomorrow morning, same time. Have a good day, everybody.
Bad time, same bad station. All righty. Bye.